Hi, I'm Dr. Patrick Lanzarone from the CoralReefAquarium.com. Today we're going to talk about how to clean out large volume aquaria. Large volume aquaria present a problem because of their size. You just can't pick them up like you would a 20 or 30 gallon tank and clean them out and tip them over like you would to drain them. So they're best left on the stand during the cleaning process. First off, if you're going to clean out a tank, you have to make sure that you've unplugged your heaters and you've unplugged your power heads. If your power heads are full of calcium deposits or coralline algae and you want to clean them up because they're not working well, you can take them, soak them in a pail full of household white vinegar or acetic acid, like 5% acetic acid, household white vinegar. Leave them in there overnight, and most of that stuff will break down pretty rapidly. And if any of it's a little bit hard or resistant, you can scrape it off or use a toothbrush. So you want to clean those up too. If you're cleaning out your tank because you have some sort of a disease in it or other pestilence, and you want to rid the tank of that, bleach, regular household bleach, is excellent for that purpose. And a tank of this size, which is a 110 gallon tank, you can throw like 4 cups of bleach in there and it'll basically clean everything. Leave it in there for about 48 hours and drain it. So if you're not going to keep your sand, you can do that as soon as you take out all your wildlife and get everything out. Then you can put the bleach in and clean it in that first step. If you want to save your sand, then you're going to proceed. You're going to drain the tank and you're going to scoop the sand out. Deli containers make good scoops. You're just going to need a 2.5 gallon bucket to put in the tank, so you can pick the sand up and drop it into that bucket, and then take that bucket out and put it, transfer that sand into a reserve pail or bucket, whatever you have. I tell you all the time that Rubbermaid is the only approved plastic products and pails that you can use. Otherwise, other materials have to be FDA approved for food use. Plastic is a petroleum product, and certain plastics are even made from recycled plastics, which leach more toxic properties. So don't go cheap on pails. Rubbermaid Brute pails, they come in all different sizes. They're excellent, they're durable. I've had some for years, and they're great to have as a RODI freshwater reservoir, and also you should always have some salt water on hand. If you have a nano tank, you just need a 5 gallon one. But if you have a larger tank, then you're going to get into the 32 gallon, and I think they even have a 50 gallon. So it depends on the space that you have. But always have water on hand for any emergency purposes. Now, back to this. So there's a couple of different ways you can do it. Obviously, you see here we have a garden hose. Now, on the end of the garden hose, I have that little, this is a valve. It's a little bit beat up. It's been around a while. But if you turn this on and off, you can control it from here. You don't have to run back to the spigot to turn it off. So they sell that also in hardware stores. The other thing I want to point out to you is that this is a Y valve, they call it. It's really cool. You put it on the spigot, and then you can have 2 hoses on here. And you can use this valve to shut this side off and that valve to shut that side, vice versa, and open one up at a time. And you can have 2 hoses on one spigot. So, you're going to drain the tank, you're going to scoop out your gravel and either discard it or save it. Then, what I like to do in the 2 hose method is fill the tank up again halfway. And then disconnect the hose from the spigot. And this hose will act as a siphon. It's going to immediately siphon the water right back out. So you might want to keep it, if you can run it outdoors, that's the simplest, or into a shower or whatever you're going to do. Now, with a second hose, you're going to reattach the spigot and run water through that hose back into the tank. So what you're doing in essence is you're filling the tank with one hose and you're draining it with the other. That's going to give you time to work because you're going to have an always constant source of water in there. And then you're going to take a sponge, like a household sponge. They sell them in the supermarkets. This is a Scotch-Brite, not that you have to use this brand. But the one thing that you want to make sure is that you do not use a sponge that is preloaded with soap. These are just simply sponges. Now, they have a little bit of an abrasive end. You can clean. They're great for cleaning up in the plastic area. You can clean the glass with them. They won't scratch the glass unless you really get down and buff, and nobody needs to do that. If you have anything that's attached to the glass that you can't get off with some sponging, then straight edge razors are the way to do that. Just get a little straight edge razor and scrape on an angle, kind of like you would an algae scraper from when we had freshwater tanks. That'll work fine. If you have lucite tanks, you need lucite approved sponges. They do sell them. I have one around here right now, but I don't know where I put it. But it's they're on a stick and like a handle, a long handle, and you can use that for either glass and or acrylic. But acrylic requires its own set of materials, so be very careful about what you use on acrylics. They scratch easily and they'll be ruined. Now, that's the 2 hose method. One delivers water and one siphons water. When you get down to the bottom, you're going to have to scoop out whatever silt is down there if you haven't been able to siphon it out, because that's why you want to siphon. You want to use the siphon to clean the bottom as the other hose is filling. And you're also going to be able to spray the glass and keep washing all the debris that sticks to the glass down. Now, if you can work with a wet dry vac, then that's the easiest way to do this. Siphon out all of the water originally, and at that step, instead of filling it up again, just take your wet dry vac and suck out all of the water and the debris or the little silty sand that you can't get out at the bottom. And that's going to shorten the process a lot, because then all you have to do is fill it, throw in some bleach, scrub it up, and you can rinse it out well, or you can leave it overnight soaking in the bleach to disinfect it, and then you can use the any kind of dechlorinator to get rid of chlorine, and then drain it and rinse it again. I mean, you want to make sure that when you're refilling it, you're not refilling it with some chlorine residue in there. Even though most chlorine will render itself useless within about 24 hours, you still don't want to have any bleach residue around. Now, these little kiddie shovels that we used to use as kids at the beach are great for this purpose. This, however, is not my original kiddie shovel. You can just get in there at the end, and all of that silty stuff you can scoop out. And the reason this is better than a deli container is because the deli container is round and you really can't get enough. But this thing can, as a shovel, it'll just go in there flat and pick up a lot of stuff, and you can dump it into your bucket. And lastly, the last technique that we used to use in days of old is a big sponge. Put your bucket in there when you're down at the bottom and you have only like a 1/16 of an inch of water left in there. Use the sponge, blot up that water, and at the same time you'll pick up some sediment, and you can squeeze it into your pail and away you go. So, like I said, this is not rocket science. There's, in review quickly, there's the two hose method, one delivers, one siphons. There's the wet dry vac, which you just, after you've cleaned out the tank, cleaned out your water and removed the gravel, you can go in with your wet dry vac and suck out everything that's left in there. And then, of course, lastly, the old school big sponge blotting the bottom type thing where you're taking out the water. So, enough said about that. Now, in terms of the outside glass, remember, as an aquarist, we have to have a clean glass and we have to have pristine water. So, in my mind, we're water keepers and glass cleaners. Now, if you can keep your water right, everything that's going to live in it is going to survive. So, I like a spray bottle. In the past, I've used paper towels that are wet with water and wipe them on the glass. There's a couple different things. It usually drips all over the place, and also scares the hell out of the fish because they see that white towel going back and forth, they freak out. So I take just a regular spray bottle, and if you put it on mist like this, and you spray it on the glass, it's really not going to make a lot of water on the floor or anything like that. Then take a squeegee, just a regular window squeegee. I got it at a hardware store, and just like the window washers do, just start over here, make sure you're under the frame, come across, and you're going to remove the debris. Now, it's important, if you ever saw a window washer work, they always wipe their squeegee. So you want to wipe off the excess water, and just keep on going. Go in one steady, straight motion across the length of the tank. And clean that up. Now, you will have a little water that will drip here, so just have a rag hose and clean it up. The other thing that I do want to touch on is that whenever you're working around your tank, if you're going to do a lot of work, if you're going to drain out the tank and transfer water, get one of these painter's drop cloths. They're about $5. They're very cheap to use. Just spread them out all over the floor. Cover them heavily with newspaper. The newspaper will catch any of the water, and it'll protect the drop cloth so you don't rip them when you put down a bucket. And it will also protect the floor, because sometimes, believe it or not, you can have an ink transfer. If you just use newspaper without that, and the paper gets sopping wet, you can have an ink transfer from the paper onto the floor, depending on what type of floor you're using. I've seen it happen. And then you're in a mess and you got to clean that up. So I like to do all of the fish tank work with the least amount of labor as possible, because there's a lot of work to be done. And if it becomes a laborious job, then you're going to dread to do it, and you're not going to get it done often. So, cleaning your tank out is not something that you need to do as a reef tank owner. Once we set them up, we want to keep them going, and the older they get, the better they get. But if you're just starting out and you have to clean out a tank, these are just a couple of pointers on how to do that. If you have the time, check out my website, thecoralreefaquarium.com. I think you're going to find it very interesting. We have weekly live meetings online where we all get together and talk about topics that the viewers send in, and some other topics that we come up during the meeting. It's a great place to talk about your tank and to learn about others. And there's a free frag giveaway for all our premium members. Premium membership is only $4.95 per month. So $60 a year is not a tremendous amount of money for an educational course and a chance to win a frag, and you can win over and over again. So check us out, thecoralreefaquarium.com. I hope you show up. I'm looking forward to meeting you. Thank you.